Hello, BookTube, and now I have your attention again with the title of this video. I thought I'd do another video on detestable authors. Now, it was rightly pointed out a few times, which, yeah, like to me, detestable means it's more of the person. So I thought it's a very short list of 5 that I think are detestable. And this isn't that they just have a detestable characteristic, which most authors will have in the past. Today there'll be something that is detestable about them, or an incident they did, unless like this is something that is over a whole lifetime period, and imbues them as a person. And there's one of these authors that I do like their writing. I really like their writing, but I think they were a horrible person, for various reasons. And so, and I urge you to watch to the end of this video and listen to what I'm actually saying rather than jumping to conclusions before I make my conclusions on specific authors or the whole thing. And again, these are authors. They're 5, as I say. They are in the list of birth dates. And the first one is, not surprisingly, Adolf Hitler, 1889 to 1945. I don't need to go into really too much of why he is a detestable author, detestable person, and he happened to write Mein Kampf, which is a detestable book. However, that book should not be banned. It's a book that is important for history, and it needs to be kept around because it had so much impact on history and the world that people need to remember this, and not glorify it in any shape or form, but to remember it. And it would be lovely to see a huge expanded annotated edition of Mein Kampf, just for showing everything that's in it, to keep a reminder of, look what's happened, and as a warning as well. And these are important things. It's in the past. We can't, you can't erase Hitler from history, nor can you erase Mein Kampf. So use it for good and making sure that something like this doesn't happen again. Another author, the second author, is one that I actually really like his writing, but everything that I know of him, and I remember reading a biography before, that I think he was a detestable, hateful person, and that's Evelyn Waugh, 1903 to 1966. By all accounts, he was just a nasty person. His son, didn't treat anybody well, friends even, but he had a lot of friends. He was charismatic, despite his hatefulness all the way through. But I love his writing. Brideshead Revisited is just amazing. But yeah, he's one of those that is a hateful author, but it doesn't affect me. It affected me in the sense of that I wouldn't stop his reading his writing, because I really like his prose style and the books, especially Brideshead Revisited. Then we move to L. Ron Hubbard, 1911 to 1986. Now, here was a nutcase. He started Dianetics, and then which moved on to Scientology. He joked many times, and it's like many people had heard him that you need to start a religion to make money, and that's all he was interested in, and using people, women, everything. And he was a fugitive for a long time. He clearly was mentally unstable, but somehow this person created a huge empire in the sense of money and people, and it's still going now, that are using people. And the high profile ones aren't being used. They're making sure that all the underlings are being used. It's just a hateful person and a hateful thing that he created. Um, uh, and he wrote a lot of stuff, a lot of science fiction and other works. And I remember I need to revisit his short stories for science fiction because I'm interested in science fiction of this early period. I remember thinking his early short stories were good, and I enjoyed them. Like, good in the sense they were enjoyable, not great writing or anything like that. However, like, I remember the great big Battlefield Earth that was just like, not well written. It's like I read it, and then he's got what has he got? There's that 10 volume, that Deca volume of stuff that I've looked at it, and I've pondered in the past of reading this, but I don't think I could make it through something like this. It's just you can clearly see through the meanderings of his writing that he was, mentally unstable, and I don't know if he ever got, proper medical care for this, which is sad. But yeah, his treatment of people, women, everything was horrible. Next author is Norman Mailer. He lived from 1923 to 2007. Now, I've read his books. I don't say his writing style is bad, but they're imbued with like sexism and all sorts of stuff. And he was just a nasty person all round. He did not like he was he hated homosexuals. He basically hated women. He stabbed his wife, apparently, but there's been lots of, stories around that saying, oh, well, it wasn't really done that way. It was provoked. He stabbed her. Simple. And there's open on talk shows the vitriol that comes from him to other authors. I remember something, I think, between him and Gore Vidal. It's just, absolutely hateful. A person, but it imbues his writing too. This thing of hatred, it's really hatred of women. But he is considered a 20th century icon writer along with many others. There's so many authors that could be on here, but these are ones that sort of came to mind immediately that I have read. And the L. Ron Hubbard one that popped to mind, was mentioned to me by someone else that they thought it should be on my original list, and I'm going, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And the fifth one is Malcolm X, 1925 to 1965. I think this was a despicable person. He was just he was out and out clear racist. He thought, he really thought, and he preached and wrote about that white people were devils, actual devils in the supernatural sense, and that in a sense, the white race should be wiped out. That the true original race was black, and that's his thought processes for this. And he preached this, and he did not. Oops. I should have turned that down. But yeah, it was a very hateful speech and writings against people, and he was racist. However, he's honored today with Malcolm X Day, and he's applauded. I think racism should be called out everywhere, every type of racism. Now that it is being done with, they're pulling down statues of racist military leaders or other racist people. He's a racist, plain and simple. However, and this is where I want everybody to listen closely. His writing, I'm not saying to ban his writings either, like Hitler's. His writings and what he did actually did some good, a lot of good, and he's prompted people to do good things, for to stop racism against blacks and other types of racism and all sorts. So there's good that comes out of this, despite I think he's a despicable person all around because of these things, because it imbued his whole being. And that's where I'm saying that, that you can have a despicable person, a despicable author, and even despicable works like Mein Kampf, but they should never be banned. They should be known. They should be held up and said, not applauded or lauded. They should be just, have their proper place, that this is what's happened, and don't forget. Because it was George Santayana, a philosopher, says, if for those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it, or something to that effect. That's the gist of it. And all these authors are like that, and I don't think any author, because they were X, Y, or Z, should be banned as writing. It should be sort of, maybe, you should know this stuff, and people, if you're reading and writing, and because it just seems today that anybody who did one little thing in their past, or that is now questionable, we should ban them. And I don't think so. Like that's not a common consensus to everybody, but it is to some. And racism is a big thing, or misogyny is another big one that will just pluck those two out of the air. You look at any author that's, say, writing pre-1970, say, let's just pull that out of the air too. Early 20th century authors, if they were Caucasian, white, it was just like, actually find someone who wasn't, not just authors, someone who wasn't. And there's other there's other things involved in all this kind of stuff. And we have to remember with this too, it's not just confined to gender, it's not confined to race, it's not confined to age. There is, it's all across the board, where there can be and are issues with authors and people all across the board. That becomes difficult. How do you deal with these? And that's the big question. My thing is, you don't ban this stuff. Today, somebody's writing and doing that, yes, they should be held accountable for what they're doing. I'm talking about stuff, and this will be in the future. We will be held, not held accountable, but the writers should be held accountable. But we will be looked on as saying, well, why weren't they called out for doing this? In the past, the authors weren't for the most part, weren't, because it was part of a culture then. And it's like, well, it's an excuse, but the reality is we can't change what's in the past. Know that it exists and put it in its rightful place, which is not banning and not in the garbage, but to make sure that it is highlighted and seen today, so we won't be looked at in the future as in a different light, like a lot of people look back to the past. However, I don't see that happening at the moment. But this is just sort of my wish for something like this. Anyway, let the comments commence. And I just hope that people actually are understanding what I'm saying here. If you want to attack my words and say that they should be banned, then give me reasons why they should be banned and not. Because I'm saying they shouldn't be banned, because if they ban it, then it's like whitewashing the past. It's like covering it up and pretending it didn't happen. We need to remember and know these things happened in the past, so we cannot or shouldn't repeat them in the present or the future. We will be remembered for these types of things in the future. Thank you, Book 2.